Hey, shalom, shalom. It's the brother Abba Yabba from the DC Church coming at you, giving all praise, glory, and honor to Yahweh, Shema, Shaba, Shema, Kadash, Yahweh being the Heavenly Father, Yahweh Shai being whom the world ignorantly calls Jesus Christ, by Hashem being in the name, or call many spirit, Kadash being the holy. These are the names and the powers that I come to you in order to profess the 100% truth and Lord's will, seal the elect's faith. Shani Kabag, Gawala Rakaza, Koyanaba Aith, meaning double honors to the elders and apostles of GMS in these times, whom the Heavenly Father had enlisted the 100% truth to. And Shalom wa Barakam Labakar, Shiashala, peace and blessings be upon the elect of the nation of Israel. To the men out there that's pushing this word of sincerity and the truth. To you, I say Shalom wa Barakam Atham, peace and blessings be upon you. Now, without further ado, I did a quick Google search on as you can see, scriptures about being about isolation being good, and really the notion of this video is exhortation, but furthermore, it's going to be wrapped around the concept of understanding that separation is practically one of the best practices within the truth. And the reason why I say that is because separation is typically when there is separation in your life and you are isolated, that is when the Heavenly Father can deal with you without there being any interruptions. Okay, so a lot of times, we are put in situations to where we're having to deal with the world or things pertaining to this world. And, it's not a problem. That's not an issue. But the fact of the matter is that within us dealing with the world and factors of this world and things pertaining to this world, those things can kind of deter you from your path and your journey, or at least take time away from your path and your journey being in the truth. And it's a necessity that those things do happen, because when those things do happen, not one, are you only learning from the world, because there are things that you can learn from the world, like your placement. You can garner some identity and also appreciate the Lord more for being chosen and not having been one of those individuals that is a part of the world. The world actually teaches you a couple of things, and even general concepts that are in the world, or I even say the earth. Like the scriptures say, ask now the beast and they shall teach thee. There are concepts that we can learn, and functionalities that we can learn. Furthermore, ethics that we can learn about the world, because technically we're subject to learning those things. We have to learn about wickedness. We have to learn about the impact of our actions and our deeds and so on and so forth, and why it's important for us to follow after Yahweh Shema Shai. These details are very important because they will cater into your faith. They will also cater into giving you better understanding as to why the Heavenly Father did the things that he did and put us in the flesh that he put us in. And time and time again, you will go into certain seasons to where you're in a season to embrace. And then there's also a season to where you have to refrain. And the season of refraination is always better than the season of embracing, because when you refrain, you're able to analyze, number one. You're able to also ponder on details and events and things that happen. And again, it may not be the most, it may not be the easiest thing, because, you can't give your mind over to thoughts that are heavy unto you. But the fact of the matter is that you do and definitely have to give your mind over to some thought, because when you are pondering and when you are in that place of reflecting and going into a place to where you're looking at your deeds and your actions, you have time to really focus on the details behind why certain things transpired and so on, and really how to move forward. Okay. Now, with all that being said, and that I said scriptures about being isolated being good, right? And it says, while scriptures warn against harmful isolation, Proverbs chapter 18, verse 1. It also highlights the value of solitude for spiritual renewal, prayer, and seeking the Heavenly Father, seen in Yahushua HaMashiach frequent withdrawal, and verses like Isaiah 40 and 31 about waiting on the Lord for strength, showing that intentional, God-focused aloneness or solitude is good for strengthening faith, unlike selfish withdrawal. Okay, and there are two differences between separation and a spiritual separation and carnal separation. Okay. And the big difference between spiritual separation and carnal separation is not being there for your brother. Okay. Because you're going through whatever it is that you're going through, and you want to drown in your sorrows, and you're in that place so much to the point to where you're not mindful of the flock, or you're not doing your priestly duties, or you're separating yourself from the ministry, and you're not doing your videos, and you're not proactive in the spirit. That form of separation is not good. Now, the form of separation that is good is when you are separating yourself from the world and you're indulging in the spirit, and you're acquiring the information that comes. Then you're acquiring the information and intel that comes with reflecting on your actions and your deeds and occurrences that happen in your spiritual path and on your journey to the kingdom of heaven. It's a necessity for us to be in that place, because not only are we in a position to analyze, but we're also in a position to where we can focus on the future and how that looks, and also put things in place for us to be more successful within our spiritual journey moving forward. Okay. So if and again, that's why Paul said certain things like, know yourself, know ye not that you are the children of the Most High, and that he trusts that we're not reprobates, roughly paraphrasing. And furthermore, just going into specific details about just having a true identity and understanding your identity. And the only way for you to acquire identity is for you to be isolated spiritually. But after having acquired that identity, you can then go back to that place of isolation and add more details onto your character. Okay, I know that I succeed in this. I know that I don't succeed in that. I know that when I'm placed in this position, it's compromised. I can appreciate the fact that, I made this sacrifice during this time and I didn't disappoint the Lord by sinning. And, I said no to this sin. What made me say no to that sin? What made me go my own way opposed to being in the congregation of the wicked? These are all things that you can ask yourself and you can ponder on when you're separated from all things and all influences that are carnal. Because the separation is not just, oh, I'm just in my room chilling and I'm scrolling on TikTok. The separation is I'm away from anything that could potentially bring any level of carnality to my body. That whether that's food, whether that's content, whether that's music, whether that's going out or doing certain things that would cause you to be a fleshly individual and that are not conducive to the spirit. All right. So it says here are key scriptures and concepts for spiritual renewal and strength. Isaiah chapter 40, verse 31. But those who wait for the Lord shall renew their strength, right? They shall mount up with wings like eagles, and they shall run and not be weary. They shall walk and not faint. This speaks to strength gained in quiet waiting, often in solitude, right? So due to us being in this place and reflecting and doing what we need to do in order for us to better ourselves and better the inner man, the spiritual man, we're going to receive a high reward for our actions, for those deeds. All right. And if you do not believe that, you're not going to last. You have to have something that you're hanging on to, that you're holding on to, and that you're holding fast to comfort you in the times to where you are going to be discomforted and where things are not going to seem as transparent as things were before. Our whole job of being a servant of the Lord is to go through situations and misfortune prior to us receiving the kingdom of heaven. But those situations and misfortunes that happen are to prove that we truly believe and we truly are entirely serious about our faith and love for Yahweh Bahashem Yahushai. Okay. Mark chapter 1, verse 31, it says, rising early in the morning while it was still dark, he departed and went out to the desolate place And there he prayed. This is an example of Yahweh Shah HaMashiach, how when he went to go seek the Lord, he went to a secret place, and of course, this is talking about a physical event that happened. But at the same time, you can also look at these events spiritually, because now where are we going? Where's our desolate place that we're going to seek the Heavenly Father? Where's the place that we're going internally? Because there's a place that you need to go physically to where you're not tainted by the carnal events that happen around you. And then there's also a place that you can go spiritually to where you're not influenced or tainted by the carnal things around you. And a lot of times that comes with separating yourself from something or someone. All right. Now, Luke chapter 5, verse 16, it says, but he would withdraw to desolate places and pray. Yahweh Shai's consistent practice, right? So a lot of times the Heavenly Father's Son would go to these secret places or these desolate places in order for him to seek out the Heavenly Father. And it's beautiful that it highlights the word desolate, because you got to understand, a lot of times that separation is not going to be a comely separation. That separation may come with a dramatic, outro. And not every season is just going to flop over into the next one. Sometimes there's going to be a season finale, and the season finale is always filled with drama and always filled with emotion and all of the things that revolve an ending of a specific subset of time or season in your life and transferring over into the new one. But the fact of the matter is that when that season is over, you're able to acquire the benefits that came from it. But you also have to deal with the depressive feeling of having to start over again or having to be put in this new place. And it gets to a point to where after a while, when you go through so many changes, when you're put through so many different seasons, you become you've become numb to it. You grow a callous toward having to be put in this situation and knowing that someday somehow it's going to change, or it's going to be taken away from you, and then now you have to find essentially a new home. But we don't really have a home here. Our home is in Yahweh Shema Shai. But you get the gist of what I'm saying. It's discomforting to have to consistently readjust, but although it is discomforting, it is very, very uplifting in the soul, because now you're capable of dealing with multiple situations and still being sustained. All right. And just like Yahweh Shah HaMashiach said, he said, foxes have holes, but the Son of Man have not a place to rest his head. So he was in a position of constant instability. He didn't even know where he would lay his head on certain days. And that right there shows us that if he's capable of doing it and we come in the likeness of him, then we're capable of doing those things. All right. So it says, for seeking God in wisdom, right? Psalms chapter 27, verse 10. For though my father and my mother forsake me, the Lord will receive me. Comfort in the Heavenly Father alone, right? First Timothy chapter 4, verse 12. It says, being a model to believers, let no one despise you for your mouth, but set the believers an example in speech and conduct and love and faith and purity, right? Solitude can foster discipline for this, right? So we have to be made an example. We have to also show forth an example, and we have to also teach and lead the Heavenly Father's flock in the lot that we were given specifically toward, toward the ministry of Yahweh Shema Shai, Bahashem Rakakwadash. So being the fact that we have this big lot and we have these things that we're responsible for, you have to also understand that there's a lot of lessons that you're learning within that path, within that journey. And every great leader, he's a great follower. Okay. To every great leader is a great follower, because for you to be a great leader, you have to be able to take instruction and follow after the lead of someone who is greater than you. All right. And Yahweh Shai is the greatest example for us. But furthermore, speaking personally in our own personal lives, this is something that we have to make sure that we're acquainting ourselves with the idea of. All right. Don't be afraid of being isolated. Don't be afraid of being by yourself for a season. Don't be afraid of everything that comes with that. because now you have more time to focus on the things that really actually matter, like the word of the Heavenly Father, and furthermore, like doing the things that will better you in spirit, mind, and body. Because you got to also understand, not only do we have to work on our spirit, but we also are very responsible for working on our body. This is the temple that the Heavenly Father gave us in the last days. We have to do the best to preserve it and in every which way live up to Romans the 12th chapter, where he said we have to give our body as a living sacrifice, holy and acceptable, perfect will of God. All right. So we have to uphold those standards in which the Heavenly Father had given us. But the only way to do so is by making sure you're doing exactly what's talked about in this video, taking your time to isolate and recoup and regain focus and fall back into your routine and stay focused on what actually matters. You know, this world has a lot of enticing things, but what's more enticing is the kingdom of heaven. It's all of the glory that we're going to receive at the hand of God. Like, those are things that are way more enticing and should be way more enticing to you. When isolation is bad, it says self-centered, right? So, and a lot of times, you know, there are some positions to where you're going to have to be self-centric, meaning you're going to have to focus primarily on yourself, because how can you help your neighbor if you're not doing good to yourself? You know, if a man's not good to himself, how can he be good to another? Proverbs chapter 18, verse 1, it says, whoever isolates himself seeks his own desire. He breaks out against all sound judgment. This is selfish, not spiritual, and this is selfish, not spiritual isolation, right? So if you're isolating yourself to put yourself into more carnality, or for you to seek a gain of this world, you're putting yourself in a position of compromise, especially if you profess and proclaim to be a man of God. All right. So it says, key distinction: the Bible contrasts harmful, selfish isolation, seeking one's own desire, with healthy solitude. All right. It says internal time apart for connection with the Most High, prayer and renewal, and as exemplified by Yahweh Shah HaMashiach. Right. So that's kind of the main point, and that I wanted to convey in this video, as far as just being accepting of separation and and how it comes. I just want to do this really quickly. Not entomology. It says the word separation originates from the Latin term separatatium, meaning a serving, detaching, or cutting apart, right? And I'll be remiss if I didn't go to this precept. Salaki. I had a Caesar Borgia. 1 second. 3. And I know it's a precept that we hear a lot, but at the same time, it's a very relevant precept. And if it fits and you constantly hear it, that means you should probably take heed to that word, because that is the word that the Heavenly Father is teaching you, or he wants you to take heed to. Ecclesiastes chapter 3, verse 1, to everything there's a season and a time to every purpose under heaven, right? So don't think that your life is just whimsical and things are just happening for no reason. No, things happen for a specific reason. The Lord moves puzzle pieces and chess pieces in your lives and our lives purposely to put us in the position that he requires us to be in. It shit just don't happen for no reason. All right. So it says, time to cast away. There we go. Verse 5, it says, a time to cast away stones and a time to gather stones together, a time to embrace and a time to refrain from embracing. And again, a time to refrain from embracing literally is separation. All right. It says the Latin noun of action is derived from the past participle stem of the verb separare, which breaks down into two core components. Si, meaning, or se, meaning apart, parere, meaning to make ready or prepare, right? So setting apart It says, thus, the core etymological meaning of separate is to pull apart, to set apart something that was perhaps together or being prepared as a whole, right? So you may be made, not made whole, but you may be a whole or a full integer with a specific person or certain things within your life. But there's going to come a point in time to where the Heavenly Father is going to require you to be a whole by yourself. All right. And during those times, you can't look the opposite way and try to just, avoid it. It's really something you want to look toward and look forward to and actually, invite in, because regardless of if you invite it in or not, it's either you're going to accept the fact that that's what the Lord is doing and that's the position that he's moving you into. And that's how your new life is going to look. Or you're going to deal with the hurt of not doing what you were supposed to do. And the Heavenly Father still allowing things to disfavor you. And that eventually happening regardless. You got to let things just be how they be and exist how they exist. All right. With that, I give all praise, glory, and honor to Yahweh Shemal Shah, Bashim Kokadash, and Yukabaka, Willa Rakaza Queen, Abba Aith, with Shalom, Wabarakam, Labakan, Shash, Island. Until next time, I say Shalom.